Since the dawn of time, humans have had an obsession with freedom, exploration, and overall being able to do what they want. It is not a surprise that if you were to contain a human inside a box for an infinite amount of time, they would be likely to go insane and die. On another note, the game known as Minecraft is usually a sandbox game where you have a 60 by 60 million block world to work with, but in a different, modded, version of Minecraft, you have to survive in a 3 by 3 by 3 world. The name of this is compact claustrophobia. So this mod is a bit different from the usual modded experience. In Skyblock you are limited to a small island and a cobblestone generator, but you can still expand infinitely and build whatever you want. Stone Block is the opposite, where you begin in a small cave in a world made entirely out of stone and ores, but you can still dig out a decent area and live comfortably. But in compact claustrophobia, you are contained within unbreakable walls with no foreseeable way to escape. This is not only a resource management game but also a space management game. Resources are hard to come by and you have to be smart about where you put stuff. But what exactly is the point of this game? To expand your area and eventually escape this tiny world. This is a heavily modded experience, so expect to see many custom items, custom machines, and new game mechanics. Items that are usually only obtainable in the overworld, Nether, and End are now much more expensive than usual. For a game that takes place inside a tiny box, this gets insane, with the player eventually getting access to crafting and breaking bedrock. Today, we will be beating this 3 by 3 by 3 Minecraft world. After the incident, you wake up in a hallway of bedrock. What now? It is all over. Just kidding. In this hallway you will find something that is known as a compact machine. Compact machines allow you to store entire rooms of blocks inside a single block, but that's in the normal playthrough. In this playthrough, the compact machine is the new home of the player. After entering it you are surrounded by unbreakable walls and nothing. Except there is a feature known as scavenging. By knocking extremely hard on these walls, aka punching, you can shake some dirt and gravel loose from them. After compressing the dirt powder into dirt blocks, you place it down and begin scavenging the dirt. By holding right click you can find seeds to grow wood, comestibles, and string. I planted a wood sapling, but due to the nature of this compact machine, the nature being that it is 3 by 3 by 3, harvesting these trees only give you 1 log worth of wood. With wooden tools you can now pound on these walls without causing bodily harm. These wooden tools are also stronger, so you manage to knock pebbles out of the walls. By putting 4 pebbles next to each other, they undergo fusion and become cobblestone, and now you can get stone tools. These stone tools are powerful enough to loosen some metal dust out of the walls, which includes some iron dust. Unfortunately, attempting to destroy something that is indestructible can only lead to destruction the other way around, and having multiple pickaxes on you will be a common theme in the game. Even then, the pickaxe gives you a lot of other random materials besides iron. And it was time for a more effective method of getting iron specifically. Do you remember the metal dust I was mentioning earlier that I knocked out of the machine walls? By combining dusts together you can make blends, and smelting them makes alloy ingots, which in some cases can be better than normal ingots. By making a pickaxe out of 50% copper and 50% nickel, you get a 100% chance at mining iron out of the machine instead of this whole mess of drops. Using the wood gained from my 6 stunted trees, I smelted that dust into ingots for an iron pickaxe, which unlocks new drops. But we only want these 3. After quote-unquote mining some iron, redstone, and uranium, I made a blue powder. Smelting this blue powder causes you to obtain an ingot known as modularium. Keep this in mind because this will be important. But did I mention that this game contains radiation? Approximately 15 seconds ago, I mentioned that I have uranium. And as you may know, Uranium is radioactive.
Preview.
If you let too much radiation build up in your living space, it will become the opposite of living, which is death, space. And all of the methods of fighting radiation are only in the end game due to game design. However, I have one thing that radiation doesn't have. The Quest book. The developers coded it so that you get a hazmat suit at this point of the Quest book once you get irradiated. But why deal with all this annoying and useless radiation? With this radiation I made a decay generator, which turns radiation into power. With this power I could now power my first machine. The small compactor. It's a single machine made out of several blocks you have to place down, which took up a 2x3x2 area, which was the majority of the space I had, causing me to relocate all my stunted trees and stuff I had. The machine also requires clay, which can be made from smashing cobblestone into dust and then mixing it with water. But how do I have water, you may ask? By making a wooden crucible and throwing some natural material in there, they will do this. And this water will be very important. With that out of the way, the compactor makes even more compact machines, for 16 modularium ingots per tiny machine. And to answer your question, you can place compact machines inside of compact machines, infinitely. So instead of one 3x3x3 box, you get 2 of them. Which is a very big difference. Here's where the space management comes into play. Machines later on require more space to fit into the room and actually function, like this 9x9x9 fusion reactor. And no, you can't split this up into 4 different smaller rooms. Eventually you will need to make the endgame bedrock crafter, which requires a 13x13x13 space. Where you put stuff will be important, compared to a usual Minecraft playthrough where you can just throw stuff down wherever you want and not have it change anything. Each higher tier room needs 4 of the lower tier and new materials every time, so that's what the progression is based around. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Speaking of too ahead, there is no such thing as too many subscribers. Please join me in the journey for more subs than the number of Rubik's Cube permutations. Nothing's impossible. Anyways, back to the 3x3x3 world. It was time to make steel. The first serious alloy. In the real world, steel is obtained by combining carbon and iron, but we are not in the real world. And in compact claustrophobia the main character does not have carbon due to being stuck in a machine, and the nature of the machine is that it is 3x3x3. So here is a new method. The first step is to throw human waste into water and then mix it with dust to obtain this powder, and then you combine it with grounded up wood and an RNG drop from sieving, and now I have gunpowder and now I have TNT. The second step involves exploding iron blocks with TNT. Supposedly, the TNT will explode the carbon into the iron to make steel. And I did this in my third compact machine, because I did not want to blow up my first or second machines. Did I mention that this pack, like most other packs, will require materials in increasingly massive amounts up to end game? So later on you will gain more efficient methods to gain the same materials. Instead of using a wooden pickaxe to mine stone, I could just use a sieve to turn dirt into rocks into stone. And by using the water, I could now grow crops faster. One of which was sugarcane. A material that is useful in high-pixel skyblock, and also in compact claustrophobia. In this game it's used in a sewage duplication feature, which will be useful because the sewage is an ingredient for pressed off, also known as press off, which is German for artificial leather or ersatz, which can be stacked on top of each other to agglutinate into a single leather, since cows do not spawn in compact machinery. This fake leather will be used in the 3x3x1 metal press, which can just barely fit in my machine. After getting all the leather I needed, along with some other machinery requiring steel, I assembled the metal press in the third compact room, right next to a new power generator called the thermoelectric generator, which is made from the exploded steel and some metal ingots that have been flattened with an engineering hammer specifically, not just a normal hammer. The way this generator works is that when you have 2 different things and one of them is hot and one of them is cold, it will create energy due to the Seebeck effect, which exists in real life. This also works with radioactive stuff, which counts as a hot material and will also undergo the Seebeck effect. With this, you will obtain much more energy than the decay generator. This is what the game told me to do, but do you know what's even hotter than uranium? Technically the Landau pole is hotter at about 10 to the power of 290 times hotter, but we do not have access to that. However, we can make lava by crafting a steel rod, burning it to convert this into a blaze rod, breaking that blaze rod into powder, and then stomping on it over and over again. You get a bit of lava. Now do this 4 times and you have a whole bucket. Now you might say that you could use the lava and water to make obsidian to make a nether portal to escape the machine, but nether portals are disabled. So it was time for a more useful use of the lava. With the lava, water, and generator, I powered a metal press, which can crush a tiny compact machine into this more pixelated and useless version, which is actually a crafting ingredient for the 5x5x5 machine. And this space upgrade will be needed to fit in the crusher, which is a 5x3x3 machine. The crusher isn't even the most expensive part. The 16 tiny machines required for the 7x7x7 machine was going to be catastrophic to make, requiring thousands of pounders. But no matter. As the player gets more room and more materials, you can begin making and placing down pipes, hoppers, cables, and even more machines to automate obtaining resources. Doing the entire progression manually is looked down upon, and later on you will see setups such as this that have been designed to save as much space as possible while doing their job. Soon enough, most of the items you need will no longer come from pounding on the walls, but from technology. But before that, it was time to get the 5x5 machine. And this requires a few more steps. First I made a steel pickaxe, which is apparently powerful enough to knock the blue out of the dark blue walls. Then you use this blue lapis lazuli to make a blueprint, and you use the blueprint and some other engineering tools to engineer a square-shaped mold, which is needed to make the metal press work. After painstakingly getting 4 tiny compact machines from setting up an auto-clicker, I crushed them all and then used them as the signs for the brand new 5x5x5 room. I moved some of the generators and machines in there, including a new machine that allows you to make niter without having to use the sewage duplication feature, which I used to explode more iron into steel. I also put down some more auto-clickers running 24/7 because I would need a massive amount of resources for the 7x7x7 machine. So after going through tens of custom pickaxes and collecting auto-clicker powder, I relocated the auto-clickers so I could make space for the crusher, and even then it took a while to find a way to fit everything into the same room. It's kind of like a puzzle. But this crusher is used to crush materials that cannot be crushed with your bare hands or with the metal press made from the pre-stall. For example, coal coke. And also, supposedly to get the normal machine you have to crush 4 small machines inside the crusher. So I crafted 16 tiny machines, flattened them, turned them into a cube, and then back into hexagons, and then back into a machine. Which caused me to obtain the medium compact machine. But why go through all this pain? Because we need to grow real trees, which only the medium machine is large enough to do. And due to game design, some materials need real wood instead of the wooden planks I've been using this whole time. And due to game design, you can turn wooden logs into diamonds, but first, I need some graphite. The way it is achieved is by burning wood logs into a ball, then crunching them into little charcoal flakes, and then recoloring it to a different shade of black. And this will be used for machine plating to create the alloy smelter, cobblestone generator, item melter, and pretty much every other endgame machine. Instead of the vanilla way where you have to sit there and mine a cobblestone generator, you can use the good way, where you craft a cobblestone generator, which drops cobblestone in nearby storages. With this, you can skip having to constantly make wooden tools to farm pebbles. And as for the alloy smelter, this is for when mixing metal dust together with your bare hands is not powerful enough, and when you need high amounts of energy to create one thing out of 2 things. Or maybe 3. Which is the case for steel, boron, and lithium. These 3 aforementioned metals can be fused together into a supposedly tough ingot, which can be made into a pickaxe that only mines uranium. Now this may sound stupid and like a waste of time. But you need over 5,000 uranium for the large compact machine, which allows you to fit in this 9x9 mystery machine that will be important. More on that later. Getting the large machine will use up 5 tough alloy pickaxes and more than 20 Constantan pickaxes, but that is not the full ordeal. Besides flattening and crushing the first 2 tiers of machine, the next tier requires you to melt a normal machine and then solidify it into yet another hexagon with a small green planet orbiting it. Because the developer wanted to add a cool animation. And due to the massive amounts of energy required to melt a machine, I had to find a material hotter than lava to acquire a stronger Seebeck effect for more energy. And this fluid was pyrotheum. 3 times hotter than lava. Creating such a liquid would need lots of sulfur, which I got as a byproduct of throwing blaze rods in the big crusher, which is overall much more effective than breaking blaze rods with your bare hands. But all of this blaze stuff needs quite some steel. And I was done with having to use the risky and overall terrible method of blowing up iron. But now that we had an infinite water source and basically infinite cobblestone source, it was time to create the blast furnace for more steel than was previously thought possible. And after just a few more steps this was converted to sulfur. And with this sulfur I created the new energy setup. After using the massive modularium stockpile to make the normal machines, which were turned into 4 liquidified compact liquidified which I put inside a solidifier to be turned back to a normal machine. One of the side effects is that the melted normal machines make quite some radiation, which would not simply go away, so it was time to get it over with faster. After speeding up the process of forming normal machines, I finally invented the large machine. Large enough to make the revolutionary miniaturizer. But while we have the space to use it, we do not have the materials, which includes 2 diamond nuggets. So how do we get that? In this 9x9x9 machine I began putting down the stuff required to turn wood into diamond, which includes an oven that turns charcoal into coke. But why stop there? Next you create 8 cokes, crush them into coke dust, and then build a 3x3 squeezer to industrially squeeze the octuple coke to make one powder known as HOP graphite. Then you proceed to cook this again. Next you blow it up for a 20% chance to get 11% of a diamond. Now you might be thinking this is BS. And that is true. But that's not even the most BS thing. Anyways, after farming trees and processing them for a grand total of 15 HOP ingots, I gambled with them and got 3 diamond nuggets. Let's go. The miniaturizer was finally mine, which can mass produce 16 compact machine walls using only 9 iron and 2 redstone, meaning that you can say goodbye to the painfully slow process of compacting walls. So if I were to put an iron block and 2 redstone into it, it will become compact walls. Now if I were to do this approximately 2 times, I can also skip making the first 2 machine pieces as you can just build a real size compact machine out of 26 walls and shrink it into a single block, which counts as a compact machine. And you can skip straight to the 7x7 machine. About 3 times more resource effective. This was gaming. Until I saw this. This recipe requires you to input 1 ender pearl. Since mobs don't naturally spawn in compact machines, you can't kill endermen for pearls, so you have to make an ender pearl from scratch. This is done by surrounding a redstone block with 26 obsidian. Now it was time for math. It takes 6 large machines to make one huge machine, so you would need 24 normal machines to progress, which requires 26 obsidian each. And the result is you need 624 obsidian. Unfortunately the old method of making obsidian was extremely insufferable. So it was time to create a new method. And here's what I did. After manufacturing the first ender pearl, I made the crucible, which is able to easily melt 4 cobblestone into 1 lava when you place it somewhere warm or radioactive. Luckily I had radioactive material, since putting the uranium next to the decay generator caused it to transform into thorium, which can melt cobblestone 20 times faster than lava. So I just connected that with the cobble gen and this machine that makes obsidian automatically from lava. But just as I was about to take a break, I was introduced to a new machine required for progression. Because when melting machines is not powerful enough, you need to glitch out the machine. Which is the case for the large machine. But how to glitch the machine? Here's what the developer coded in for glitching machines. You must blast this with 32 human waste in order for it to break down. And to produce the amount of waste required, we will need to get a lot of food. So instead of the old way of manually farming stuff, you can stick it into a garden cloche, which is basically a small transparent cover to protect plants, causing the plant to be protected and grow faster than ever and automatically harvest itself. The outputs of this go into a grinder along with some wood, and mixing this gives you a green powder that you throw into pre-existing sewage to make even more sewage. And you have to do this 100 times to get enough for one huge machine. So after spamming compact machine walls, spamming other stuff, melting them and taking a look at their animations, making 6 large machines in the middle of all the radiation, building the brand new pressurized toilet, and breaking the large machines, I built the huge machine. But let's be honest. There is nothing special or new about this. So I was going straight for the maximum machine, which needs 6 huge machines injected with even more crap. Now let's do the calculus. Due to the 6 huge machines being needed for maximum size, you need 36 large machines, which is about 144 normal machines. Or about 46 million energy worth of melting. Meaning you would have to wait 1 real-life day to get all this energy. But do you know how I keep mentioning a fusion reactor throughout this playthrough? Now we can finally create it. By building the fusion reactor, which creates 2 million energy per second, you will obtain 5,000 times more energy than the Seebeck effect. And to get this fusion reactor, you need the fusion core and 96 electromagnets, which requires all of these materials. But enough talking. It was time to grind. Now it was time to boot up the reactor. But we all wish it was that easy. Because there was a slight flaw that brought everything down. The reactor needs huge amounts of energy to boot up and maintain. It has a minimum energy per second requirement. Similar to how Clicker Heroes has a DPS requirement to beat bosses. And this requirement was nowhere near the Pyrotheum setup. So it was time to use a power setup in between the Seebeck effect and strong nuclear effect to power the reactor. And this setup was a weaker version of the reactor known as the fission reactor, which is free to maintain. And also not very expensive to build. But while it is physically cheap, it is mentally expensive. It has a nearly infinite amount of different possible configurations, each with different efficiencies. The insides of the reactor have to be filled with fuel cells and coolers, in a way to reduce heat as much as possible and make as much energy. By the way, this can explode. And by this point, this game was hurting my brain. I've nearly spent 100 days already in this cramped world. And this is not even close to over. A part 2 will soon be made, So stay tuned and subscribe so that you do not unfortunately miss the arrival of part 2 of this impossible challenge. If you want to experience being trapped in a 3x3x3 box, this mod will be linked in the description. But anyways, thanks for watching, and shout out to the members of the channel.